Hey, Hilda here. I bring you experts' experiences and epic adventures to boost your health. Today I'm sharing with you a talk about simple health hacks that are free and based on ancestral practices. They're so beautiful even in the midst of their simplicity. Things like turning our face to the sun, getting the nutrition the sun has to offer, putting our feet on the ground, getting those antioxidants that can really energize us and balance our oxidized state. There's a lot at play here, even in the simplicity of these hacks. Check out this talk from PaleoFX in April of 2022. I'm going to talk to you today about some of the secrets I've learned as I've traveled the world. I've had the privilege to do so in part because I am the podcast host for the Wise Traditions podcast for the Weston A. Price Foundation. We also have a companion show in Spanish called Tradiciones Sabias. And so it's been my privilege to kind of be in the front row seat to learn from experts, not on modern living and, not allopathic care, but to learn about what has served our humanity for millennia. So the first story I want to tell you is about an experience I had in Ecuador this past summer. I got to meet this woman, Mama Rosita, who's a curandera and a partera. She is a healer and a midwife. And I was standing on the edge of a creek in the evening and I was shivering. But I wasn't shivering because I was cold. I was shivering because I was nervous. Because Mama Rosita had invited me to be a part of the Baño Ruital, the annual ritual bath that her community did, this Quichua community in Ecuador. And she said, you could be a part of it. And I was like, oh my gosh, I have no idea what's about to happen. So I was shaking. But I thought, okay, I'll just follow along what the community members did. And what they did was, they got down in the water and they started hitting themselves with some plants. I think it was like stinging nettle or something, kind of a self-flagellation that we did to remove the bad energy and to receive the healing energy from the water. It was something of a baptism of sorts. Mama Rosita came around with an empty gourd and she poured the water on us. And because of my practice cold adapting, I didn't yell or anything. Some people were screaming. I was just like, oh, I can handle this. But anyway, she poured the water on us. She spoke some words in Quichua. Another woman came by with some burning herbs and plants and put them around our bodies. And they said, release the bad energy. Receive the good energy that the earth has to give you. And I marveled at their way of honoring and respecting what the earth had to offer. And in another moment, I got to be a part of this Inti Raimi festival, which when I Googled it, it said it's like a sun worshiping festival. Don't believe everything you read online. It was so much more profound than that. Apauqui Flores, our guide, said it takes years to understand this festival. But in part what we're doing is we're thanking the earth. We're thanking the earth for all of its provision. It felt like a Thanksgiving to me, actually. He said, and just as a mother is depleted after she gives birth to a child who's exhausted, the earth is the same way after it gives us what it has to offer. So we do this dance that lasts days and weeks, actually, to reinvigorate the earth. And so he invited me to participate in the dance. I looked like a woman that had just dismounted a horse whose legs had fallen asleep. I was like trying to keep up, but I did it laughing at myself, but with complete honor and respect for their traditions, and that I could be a part of giving back to the earth after it had given so much to us. My third experience in Ecuador, and I'm leading up to what the first secret is, was at the base of a mountain. It was this volcano called Cotopaxi, and we were about to hike up it, and my guide said, Hilda, I don't tell this to everyone, but because you're open, I'm going to tell you one thing that we do to commune with nature here. She said, when we get to the base of the mountain, I want you to take some dirt and put it under your tongue. And it's a way of saying to the mountain, I'm here, and I recognize you, until the mountain recognize us. So we arrived, and I started to do it. She said, no, not here in the parking lot, not in the parking lot. Do it over here. And I did it, and she said, Hilda, look, the clouds parted, I kid you not. And she said, it's like the mountain is greeting us and welcoming us. And we didn't experience a lot of bad weather or anything. When we got down, she's like, look, it's saying ciao. You know, it was so beautiful. So there was a sense of honor and respect with nature, but also a sense of connection that we need so desperately now. So secret number one that I want to share with you is feet on the ground. And just so you can remember it, I'm going to say it again and invite you to put your feet on the ground and say it softly with me. Feet on the ground. Secret number two, I learned when I was in Peru, also among some Quechua people. I got to go to this mountain called, the Andes, obviously, and I got to go to a village called La Merced. It was a 2.5-hour bus ride up the mountain. We were chewing on coca leaves so we wouldn't get altitude sickness. But I got there among these school children. They looked so beautiful, you guys. Their faces were nice and round, and they had these ruddy cheeks, not because they had eczema or allergies, but it was like they were sun-kissed, if you will. And then I contrasted these beautiful students in the mountains with the university students I met in Lima, who were pale and thin and slouching over, and I was like, for all the learning these students in Lima had, they were missing the greatest nutrient of all, from the sun. They were getting no sunlight. They were under their fluorescent lights in the library. They were on their computers. And these little children, who you might say were uneducated, were living close to the land with their farming families, and they had this robust health. So secret number two is face to the sun. So let's review and humor me and do these movements with me. Say after me, feet on the ground.
Feet on the ground.
Face to the sun.
Face to the sun.
Secret number three, I learned among the Maasai. I got to go to this village called Oithi, right on the border of Tanzania and Kenya. And I met a tribal elder. He was so old, he didn't know how old he was. Literally, we were trying to calculate, okay, he was around the time tea was introduced here, we're figuring out. He was about 100 years old. And I was like, I have to interview this man. I hadn't even started the Wise Traditions podcast yet, but I grabbed my phone, I hit voice memo, and through a translator, I asked him, what was it like when you were little? What was your health like? What was the village like? He said, we didn't get sick. We were never sick. He said if we felt a shiver coming on, we would drink milk from the cow, and he demonstrated what it was like to drink straight from the udder. And then he said, and now they tell me, cold is coming, your grandchildren have to wear jackets. He's like, we didn't wear jackets. And now they tell me disease is coming, we have to get a shot. We didn't have shots. I said, well, what did you eat? What did you eat? He said, whatever we could catch, whatever we could hunt, and then maybe some wild fruit and honey. That was it. And you know, the Maasai were a hale and hearty tribe, but his own village had started to depart from their traditional foods. When I was speaking with one woman, she was wearing their beautiful, colorful dress, their traditional clothing, the beaded necklaces and earrings. In one hand, she had a chai tea, and in the other, she had a white bread jam sandwich. I kid you not. And I was like, oh. But I didn't go over there because I thought, I know better than you. I went over there to say, don't eat our way, eat your way. Eat what has served you for millennia. And I went over at the behest of a tribal elder, Dixon, who contacted the Weston A. Price Foundation. He said, please send someone over, we're all getting sick. He said, I have diabetes. My wife has asthma. These are conditions they didn't have before. And he had come across some of the information from the Weston A. Price Foundation that suggests we all need to return to more traditional diets for good health. Food without labels. And I know folks here are like, oh, if it says paleo or keto, then I'm good. Don't look for the stuff in the pretty packages. Look for the stuff that has no label. So secret number three is food that nourishes. So humor me again, let's review. Just repeat after me. Feet on the ground.
Feet on the ground.
Face to the sun.
Face to the sun.
Food that nourishes.
Food that nourishes.
Yes, if you do these movements too, it helps it be kind of recorded in your brain. So secret number four is probably the most profound. I had the privilege, I find this very moving. I'm gonna let the tears flow. I had the privilege of being with an Aboriginal woman on the property that her tribe, the Inangai people, had occupied for hundreds of years. You guys, her name is Suzanne Thompson. And she said she was going to be a hairdresser at one point in her life. Like work at a Vidal Sassoon salon. And instead, she now goes by the moniker Ancestral Whisperer. Why? Because Suzanne started paying attention to her dreams. And she has a practice in her tribe of Didiri, which is deep listening, to see what path should I take. And that's how she came into the place where she had custodianship of all of this land. She showed me etchings on the cave wall, things you only see in museums. And I was like, and I thought, Didiri. Didiri is a practice that all of us would do well to incorporate into our lives. It's just simply being quiet. It's simply being still and having freedom from the fear and freedom from the chaos of this world. It's tuning out from that and tuning in, because you might just hear, if you do this, a word from your ancestors, or a word from your intuition, or a word from God. But we have to be still. And because I like alliteration, I go by Holistic Hilda, and we've said, food that nourishes and face to the sun and feet on the ground, I want to say freedom from fear. That's secret number 4, freedom from fear. So let's review again. Repeat after me. Feet on the ground.
Feet on the ground.
Face to the sun.
Face to the sun.
Food that nourishes.
Food that nourishes.
Freedom from fear.
Freedom from fear.
The last secret is one that was in all the tribes I visited. And of course I hope to do more travels. I'm really following in part in the footsteps of Dr. Price, who was a dentist researcher in the 1930s who wanted to see for himself how healthy indigenous people groups lived, uninfluenced by modernity. He did this like 100 years ago. And I was like, I want to do this too. I'm no Dr. Price, but I was like, let me see who's still living and thriving with these ancestral wisdom and traditions. So in every place I went, they had this connection with one another, community. We're a tribal people. That's why we're here in part, right? We want to connect with one another. In some tribes, isolation is punishment. So we're looking to come together in real life. Virtual is okay, you guys, but it pales in comparison with community in person. I'm going to tell you one story from a time in Ecuador too. When I was talking to Apauki's wife, she said, a lot of people got sick here, Hilda, in 2020. A lot of people got COVID, whatever that is. And she said, a bunch of us women, we gathered medicinal plants and herbs, and we took them to the community members who were sick. And she said, yeah, it was like 20 medicinal plants and herbs. We took them to the folks in the community who were sick. She said, no one was hospitalized and no one died. So my first thought was, can I see the list of the plants and the herbs that you took to these people I wanted to know? And then I realized, no, Hilda, no. It wasn't so much, I think, what those plants and herbs were, as the context in which they were given, of love and support and community. Those same herbs imported over here probably wouldn't do us the same amount of good, but that community is invaluable. So if you have someone near you, again with the alliteration, secret number 5 is friendship. Just touch their shoulder lightly. Maybe get an assent by their head nodding that you can do that. These times we live in. But anyway, so friendship is secret number 5. So let's review again. Repeat after me. Number 1, feet on the ground.
Feet on the ground.
Face to the sun.
Face to the sun.
Food that nourishes.
Food that nourishes.
Freedom from fear.
Freedom from fear.
Friendship.
Friendship.
Yes. Let me tell you something important too. Do not overlook the importance of these simple secrets for good health because of their simplicity. Do not overlook them. You guys, I call this talk From Sluggish to Sensational Without Supplements for a reason, because we're all looking, how can I get healthy? Oh, melatonin, magnesium, no offense to the conference, oh, this expert said I need to do this. I'm telling you that our ancestors had all the wisdom that we can also tap into and rediscover if we're quiet and if we dare to listen. It doesn't have to be complicated and expensive. It is simple and free and beautiful. And if you especially take into account Secret number 4, freedom from fear and chaos. If you dare to get quiet, you may hear your ancestors, intuition, your body, or the very voice of God. Thank you. Thanks for watching, you guys. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. Click on subscribe so you can keep abreast of all that I'm putting out there, and make sure to hit the notification bell so you don't miss a thing. Take care. Hasta pronto.